I am a 37-year-old man married to Kate, a 35-year-old woman, for 2 years. I'm into marketing, and Kate teaches at City College. We became friends after meeting at a gathering hosted by a mutual acquaintance. We linked on social media, but for a while there was no communication between us. Even I was in an intermittent relationship at the time, and she was seeing someone else. I wished her a happy birthday on Facebook some 4 years ago. We ended up getting together for coffee the following day after that lengthy conversation that continued much after midnight. I took her out for supper and a lengthy drive because she didn't have any arrangements for her birthday. From then on, it all began, and 2 years later we were married. In actuality, we barely commemorated our second anniversary last month. All was well in our lives until a few weeks prior, when my friend informed me that he had spotted Kate with a man who appeared to be in his 20s. I asked him if he was a buddy and what the big deal was. With hesitation, my friend told me their non-friendliness was implied by their body language. The man's hand was on Kate's waist, and his lips were practically touching her cheeks as they sat side by side. My friend claimed that after seeing them cuddle for a while, he decided to stay and see whether it was just a misunderstanding. When I asked him whether he had taken any photos of them, he stated that everything had transpired so quickly that it had just not occurred to him to take any. In addition, he was worried that he would have drawn criticism for striking up a romantic photo in a public setting. I trusted my friend, but I couldn't be certain enough to confront Kate about it. Based only on what my friend had witnessed, I was unable to declare her to be an adulterer. Upon arriving home, I noticed Kate engrossed in a book. I wanted to know if she had met her buddy that day, but I was not sure how to approach the question in a way that would not come across as suspicious. If we had been a couple and had known every little detail of the day together, it would have been simpler. Not because we didn't share anything at all. Rather, we just shared the most significant things. I struck up a conversation with Kate to ease myself into the zone. I made up a narrative about how I ran into my school buddy at a client meeting today. We ended up going to lunch together, and he was our client. She gave me a pretty generic response, saying, "Oh, that's nice. Must have been great catching up with your old friend." I answered, "Yeah." I asked her about her day, and she stated nothing unusual had happened, returning to her book. I had a feeling something wasn't right. Had she been friends or coworkers with that guy, she would have told me about their lunch. Yes, he was not her friend. After that day, my mind became attentive and I began to pay great attention to Kate. After observing her for a few days, I saw nothing unusual about her actions. But I was unable to let it go. I then proceeded to check her phone. So I went into her phone that evening while she was sleeping. Save for the casual conversations from her pupils and coworkers, her social media accounts and mailbox were both spotless. I then looked over her phone history, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. In order to find the call history from the day my friend had spotted her with a male, I scrolled through the past. Right before my friend had reported seeing them together, I discovered a phone call. Since the contact was listed as Roomie 16, it was assumed that he was one of her 2016 batch students. For convenience, Kate stores her students' contact information along with their name and batch number. I couldn't understand. Her strong friendship with a friend was still plausible, but her relationship with her students seemed so strange and repulsive. I became aware that while I was skimming through her friends' and colleagues' discussions, I was missing her pupils' chats. The last thing anyone could fathom is their wife having an affair with her student. When I reopened her WhatsApp, I was able to find Roomie's conversation. For the last few months, she had been texting him. The talk from 2016 before that contained well wishes and farewells. It appeared that he texted her back to say he was back in the city 2 months ago. It seems that he relocated to Texas following his graduation. I exported the chat to my inbox and erased the history because I didn't have time to go through every communication one by one. All she had been saying to her young lover, I wanted to read. I read and reread the chat all night long. I discovered that we were having a sexual connection while he was still in college after reading the mails. It all began when Kate enrolled in his final year class. When Roomie noticed that Kate had a warm spot for him, he began to gently flirt with her. At first, Kate dismissed it, but eventually gave in and told him that she couldn't help but feel his body. That was the beginning of their physical relationship. But as college was coming to an end, he developed feelings for a woman who was ostensibly the wealthy businessman's daughter in Texas. Following graduation, he made the decision to relocate to Texas with his girlfriend. When Kate found out, it depressed her, so Roomie gave her lots of attention in the final few months of his college stay. I didn't scroll up past the part where the farewell wishes were as I was reading the text on her phone. I am happy that I exported the entire communication since it enabled me to comprehend the entire narrative. Kate wouldn't have divulged all of these specifics, I'm sure. The best thing you know? At that time, Kate was seeing someone else. It follows that she has a history of cheating. Since he moved out, Kate and Roomie had not communicated, sending each other simple birthday and holiday greetings. Roomie texted her around 3 months ago to let her know that he and his wife had moved back to the city. Now that he was married to his wealthy Texas sweetheart, he was managing his father-in-law's city firm. Roomie approached Kate and said he wanted to taste her again since he missed her body. Although Kate first exhibited resistance to his approaches, she finally caved in and had a few sexual encounters with him. It appeared from skimming the mails that it was 4 or 5 times. It was dawning by the time I had finished reading the chats. I tried to get some sleep because I had work the following day. She had already left for college when I woke up. I went to the office after preparing my breakfast. Kate wasn't home when I got back from work. She usually returns from the college by 5 o'clock, but she wasn't there when it was 7. I never found it bothersome when she would typically hang out with her friends and coworkers after college. It wasn't the same this time. I just wanted her home so we could have our disagreement and move on. There was no use circling the issue when I had all the proof. I desperately wanted the revelation to stop because it was smothering me. I grew impatient as the time went on. I asked her to come home over the phone. I had never done this before, so she asked whether I was all right. It took her 30 minutes to get home. I was sitting on the front porch when she came in. She understood that the situation was serious because I was sitting still and wasn't using my phone or iPad. She came running over to ask me what was wrong. I replied, "Sorry I disturbed your meeting with Roomie, that's his name, right?" She asked me what it meant, shooting me a chilly look. I said that playing hide-and-seek was no longer necessary. She said that I was unfairly accusing her. She froze when I showed her the chat exports. After a little period of silence, she accused me of violating her privacy. Really? I violated her privacy by snooping through her phone, and now she's doing the same with other men's underwear. Is not a criminal, whoa. I asked her whether this Roomie guy was the reason behind her last breakup, to which she angrily replied that it was none of my business, but then I started repeating myself like a psychopath, and she admitted that her last boyfriend had also ended things when he found out she was sleeping with her student. I laughed, and I asked her how she could be so stupid as to ruin her relationship for a man who had figured everything out and was living a peaceful life. She retaliated, accusing him of being extremely addicted. What, is his blood loaded with cocaine? We were living in my house, so she had to leave. She looked unremorseful and said that there was no need to be overly dramatic, that it was just physical, and that new emotions were involved. She asked me to think twice about the decision because I was acting impulsively, but I said, "So be it." And she left. She stamped her foot and went inside, yelling that I would regret it, and that I would come back to her in 2 days, begging that she come home. The truth is, she was incredibly naive, and I would die if I had to do that. When I told her that I would be sending the divorce papers shortly and that she should sign it uncontested if she had the same level of self-respect as that day, she packed her things while I sat on the front porch, didn't even look at me, and left without saying anything. She was acting as though it were my fault, and I was the one who uncovered her infidelity by checking her phone. She gave me the impression as we were leaving the house that she would not take it well, and although I would have forgiven her for her outbursts, I felt compelled to crush her ego. Before he blocked me, I looked for Roomie on social media, rated his wife's profile, and sent her a request because her account was private. In the meantime, I hired a lawyer. 2 days later, Roomie's wife still hadn't accepted my request, so I didn't wait for her to respond. I sent her a few excerpts of the sex chats between Roomie and Kate, and she responded to me an hour later, asking for more information. I told her that I was the husband of Kate, the person that Roomie had been sleeping with, and that I had sent the chat section in which Roomie was discussing her and her wealthy dad's business. She asked if I could send her the entire exchange. I really wanted to meet her and tell her everything, but I refrained from doing so because I thought it would look unsettling. I asked for her email address and sent it to her. She asked how I found out, so I told her everything in detail. I told her that she would receive all the clarity if she carefully read the messages. After a few hours, she replied, asking if I had confronted this Kate. I said that I had, and she promised to involve her father in dealing with Roomie before going offline. I wanted to find out how things were going with her, but she hasn't been online for 3 days. Since Roomie is taking advantage of her father's money, I'm afraid he hurt her once she learned the truth. I've tried contacting her via all of their social media accounts and emails, but I'm not getting through. Hopefully she's okay. My lawyer is currently preparing divorce documents. I will provide an update if the situation worsens. She is obviously a seasoned cheater who believes she is untouchable and that the world revolves around herself. You are about to give her a rude awakening. Let's see her wings clipped and watch as she returns to reality. Update 1 *. Thank you for the support. I truly felt like I was acting rashly, but I went ahead and did it nevertheless. I was overjoyed when people complimented me on my post and said I was brave. I appreciate you all. Let me give you an update. As you recall, Roomie's wife went missing for about a week. When I eventually received a response, I wasn't sure if it was from her or Roomie from her phone, so I asked for a call. She saw my messages expressing my concern for her safety and gave me a call right away, which made me feel relieved. She told me that she took the first flight to Texas as soon as she finished reading the messages. She was alone in this city and didn't want to deal with Roomie alone, who sounded so shady on the chat, so she involved her parents. Her lawyer suggested that she turn off her phone for a week because Roomie was attempting to contact her by any means possible, and her parents were worried that if he spoke to her, he might be able to convince her by providing some crappy excuses. She said she wasn't stupid for believing him, but she did as her lawyer advised. You know what Roomie's father-in-law did to him. It's classic. Rather than confronting him about the cheating, they said they had found some accounting problems in the office that Roomie handled, and it was over. They advised him to avoid his wife. Roomie couldn't put his finger on the reason for his in-law's sudden suspicion. His father-in-law reasoned that a cheating case in court wouldn't have done much harm to him because the court doesn't punish infidelity. At most, he would have been asked to pay alimony for his wife's emotional distress, but his father-in-law didn't need money. He wanted to destroy him. You know who got in touch with me a few days later? My roommate. He said exactly what I needed to hear. Dude, your wife is effing delusional. She's demanding to marry me and making up stories. She's got to be aware that I'm 10 years her junior. We did have sex, but I can't get married to every person I had sex with. Upon hearing about Roomie's problems with his in-laws, Kate claimed that I was the one who had disclosed the conversations to his spouse. However, Roomie said that nobody was discussing the incident because everyone was more focused on the company's accounting problem. Roomie believed Kate was taking advantage of the occasion to persuade him to wed her. His messages were truly making me giggle. He shares Kate's delusions and no less. He sincerely believed that his in-laws were unaware of his wrongdoing and were just worried about the accounting problems. The paperwork for the divorce was ready at least a month after D-Day. I inquired as to whether Kate was staying with her mother over the phone. Kate wasn't with her, so she was taken aback when I asked. She inquired as to my well-being. I was honest with her. She didn't believe me and asked me to show her the proof, but I wasn't interested in convincing her to believe me because I was too tired from proving everything to everyone. I informed her that I would be delivering the divorce documents to her residence and instructed her to have her daughter sign them. After that, Kate would leave me nasty voicemails accusing me of ruining her and Roomie's lives for an hour. I didn't block her because I was curious about her true nature and the lengths she would go to in order to mistreat me. Though we didn't have as lengthy of a relationship as some of you who tell stories of cheating wives or husbands, I did spend 4 long years with this woman. After I married her and she stopped assaulting me, it was really difficult to part ways. She was blocked by me. She still hasn't signed the divorce papers a week after that. I also inquired about the status of Roomie's wife's divorce proceedings. While her father is occupied with Roomie, that princess is on a vacation in Vegas in an attempt to escape her depression. Wealthy people handle problems in unique ways. When these are all finished, I'll update. I just want to get on with my life and try to avoid thinking about Kate as much as possible right now. You didn't bring her or Roomie to ruin. They accomplished that on their own, foreign. I apologize for duping you into getting married to a person who is incapable of loving. You are worthy of so much more. Even though the marriage was only supposed to last 4 years, you nevertheless entered it with the expectation that it would last forever. It's also hilarious how Roomie approached you regarding Kate. I'm not sure what he anticipated coming from it. It's time for him to tidy up his own mess. He is fully aware of the level of insanity you are experiencing. Update 2 *, thank you, my divorce has officially finalized. One recurring comment in my previous post was that people thought I was dating Roomie's ex-wife because of the way I expressed my worry. I'm not in the mood to get involved in this mess, guys. She's not my type, however. After all of my hardships, I am unable to fathom or afford a lavish vacation, and I have no intention of using her father's wealth, especially in light of their treatment of Roomie. Roomie managed to prove in court that he had embezzled corporate monies, despite his father-in-law's accusations to the contrary. I'm not sure if Roomie was framed or if he really embezzled money from his father-in-law's business. The specifics of Roomie's father's methodology for establishing this were unknown to her spouse. She is a wealthy princess who is ignorant of the cost of veggies, as I previously mentioned. They separated his daughter from Roomie on the pretext of his fraud. His wife followed her father's instructions. Roomie received a large fine and was given 3 months to pay it. If he doesn't pay, he will face criminal charges. The sum is absolutely enormous, and she is confident that Roomie will not be able to afford it, possibly even ending up in jail. Furthermore, it has severely damaged his reputation, something that simple dishonesty would not have done. The father-in-law of Roomie is, in fact, a horrible, freaking dude. In my case, Kate engaged in a number of deceptive practices before to signing the documents. Her desired alimony was my house. She used to lead the conversation when it came to feminism, and when it came time for her to stand by her principles, she went so far as to try to force me out of my home. It's unclear to me if this was feminist. She claimed that even though it was she who cheated on me, she still deserved payment. What sort of reasoning is this? But thank God, I had a capable attorney who stood up to her and kept her from snagging my house. And thank God I had the proof of her adultery at my disposal. I've read a ton of accounts from victims who were both defrauded and had their homes and belongings stolen. She complicated the divorce, which is not what I wanted. So I went along with it. She claimed to her coworkers that I was cheating on her, which is why she was divorcing me and wanted the property as payment for alimony and other expenses. And her friends and coworkers showed her the utmost sympathy. I thus took the action that I ought to have taken far sooner. I forwarded her intimate conversations with Roomie to several of her coworkers. Furthermore, you are aware of how eager employees are to share rumors at work. The conversation spread to every faculty member, and Kate became the talk of the teacher's office. Kate yelled at me over a landline, accusing me of leaking her communications. This time, I returned it to her. I threatened to disclose the documents to her friends and fellow college students if she didn't sign the paperwork, and it might turn into the next big event in the city to go viral. I spoke in a harsh, chilly tone. She was aware of my ability. She had me play this dirty, even if I never would have. To be honest, I never meant to embarrass her in this way, therefore I didn't tell her mother when she didn't believe me. At the next court appearance, she signed the divorce papers after accepting the terms of my split. I'm finally divorced and out of her clutches. I want to wait a while before hopping on this bandwagon, but my friends are urging me to start dating again. Furthermore, since Roomie's wife last provided an update on Roomie's court case, I have not communicated with her. I have no interest in finding out what happens to him. I didn't want any reminders of my past in my current life, even though I remained in contact with her up until my divorce was finalized. All I want to do is go on. Inspired by Roomie's ex-wife, the princess, I am also preparing for a solo journey. No, to Montana, not to Vegas. Hopefully, after my mountain hike in Montana, I return fully recovered. I appreciate your support and listening to me. She would try to go straight for the kill, of course. You had to show Kate that she was not untouchable because she believed herself to be. When you have evidence to the contrary, why would she bother lying to others around her? To be honest, you have to play dirty occasionally. When she cheated on you, she didn't have your feelings or your humiliation in mind. She really gave you and your feelings absolutely no thought. She didn't think her activities were improper. You sent the material out of self-interest, not to embarrass her, but in order to move on. OP, I hope your trip is fantastic. Again, here's how you define yourself. How do you feel? We appreciate you coming here today.